Hi, I wanted to make another video that further demonstrates how important it is to vet your tenants properly and use a good management agency. Quite a few years ago, before I had much experience, my parents went to try and find decent property managers. They knew someone whose dad they knew, and they thought because of that they could trust the son to manage my properties. He had an agency. It was not very well known, and in hindsight it was not a good option at all. So over the years of tenanting my property, there were a number of odd issues that occurred. My parents also had a property, and they noticed there were discrepancies with the rent and things like that. There were odd issues cropping up here and there, and then one day the tenants just disappeared as we stopped receiving rent. So we went to the property to investigate and just happened to bump into a neighbour. They had informed us that for many months the whole street was scared of the tenants that we had in the property. They had people coming and going at all times of day. People were jumping in and out of the windows. The property was left in a state as well, and many people in the neighbourhood thought they were drug dealers or they were involved in other nefarious activities. So not only did they disrupt the property investment strategy, they were also not good tenants, and the whole street was scared of them. They had obviously not been sourced properly and referenced correctly. Because of this, the situation became a nightmare, and we then had to pay many hundreds in order to fix the property and remedy the situation. The same agency provided us other tenants. For example, there was another tenant we had quite a good relationship with him. It was the self-managed option, but his manner was often slightly abrasive with us. We didn't know why, but then after a while we realised that the agency had told him the rent was £900 a month, but the agency had told us the rent was £800 a month, so they were stealing £100 a month off us. And this led to arguments. That tenant moved out as well. There was another group of tenants that moved in. They caused damage and they just disappeared one day. In order to fix the damage, we tried to get money from the deposit, but we were told the office computer had set on fire, and this means the deposit could not be returned. As nonsensical as it was, these were the kinds of issues we dealt with. There was also another tenant who was not paying rent for months, and then one day he disappeared, owing us £2,000 worth of rent. We worked out where he worked, and then we brought him to court. We turned up at court, but he did not turn up. So it became a waste of time, money and resources to pursue this. Another set of tenants moved in, and then we stopped hearing from them for a while. And we went to the property one day only to realise they had stolen all the furniture and were never to be seen again. After this, we tried 2 or 3 other agencies, and we eventually got to an agency that would at least supply us consistent tenants. This agency, we later realised, vetted and referenced tenants properly. They sourced the tenants and were very thorough in who they placed in properties. Not all the tenants were ideal from this agent though. There were some problems here and there, but at least the tenants were consistent and did pay rent on time. After further networking and some months later, I discovered an even better agency, the one I've mentioned in previous videos, and the person who started that agency started the agency because he didn't trust most agencies, as he does everything properly and by the book and knows all the laws, knows all the upcoming laws. He has a great passion for property and property management, and I can tell in my dealings with him, he was very thorough. For example, when I rented out a property with the previous agency, they had to book an inventory to be done, and this would have taken over a week. When I moved to the new agency, the owner himself went to the property on a Saturday in order to do the inventory himself. Even though they manage over 1,400 properties, they were much more hands-on and much more thorough in their approach, and I haven't really gone wrong with them since. My first property was in Manchester, so when I moved back home to the West Midlands, this property was then put with an agency. Back then we didn't know about property management as much, and then we looked at the accounts quite quickly and realised they had taken 16% instead of the 11% that they claimed they would take. We felt that this was excessive and therefore moved to the self-managed option after this. But we did not take into account that this 16% was justified as they had repairs and maintenance to do as well. So due to a lack of experience, we moved back to the self-management model and therefore had to find agencies of our own accord, and got into trouble by having substandard tenants placed in our property as described earlier on. So once again, it's always good to find a good agency, one that's ALA registered, one that knows the area very well and sources, references and manages tenants effectively. Thanks again. See you in the next video.